What's up? It's Marco, Sage of Soccer, and US men's national team just draw Jamaica 1-1. It was a mixed performance, some positives, some negatives. I'll get into them. But, man, the first thing I just want to mention is this is why depth matters. When you see people talking about the roster and complaining about, like, the fourth winger choice, the midfield depth, our Brooks not being involved, this is why it matters. Performances like this. Games where we've got a suspension in our midfield, we've got suspension in our defense, and you have to put the backup guys in. And man, especially when the subs started to come on, they were not stepping up. I feel like Busio did a good job filling in for McKinney. I feel like Richards did a good job filling in for Robinson, but once it got past that, it was not good. Pulisic came on as a sub. He was very rusty. We couldn't really count him to do much with how little he's been playing lately. But Kellyn Acosta, very defensive substitution. We didn't really have any better options. Like, if Luca de la Torre was here, if Julian Green was there, that would have been a very good option to bring on. Someone who could help change the game, as we've seen Luca de la Torre do in the past, as we've seen Julian Green do in the past. But no, they just weren't given the chance, and we had a defensive midfielder come on when we were in a game that was very winnable, that was tied. And Jamaica kept getting more and more chances after Acosta came on. It's not like he stopped them completely. And then Paul Arriola was brought on, did nothing. Shocker. Did nothing except maybe get injured. Which I hope he recovers, but expected. And Jesús Ferriera came on, and he's a talented player. I like him. I feel like he's got a future with this team, but he's not a 9. And we were playing him at the 9. And if we were playing him as a false 9, I don't think we were. And when you were looking at those youth national team games, when Caden Clark was playing at striker, he wasn't a false 9. He was just playing out of position. And that's what we're doing with Jesús Ferriera. We're not playing him as a false 9. Or at least or at least he was doing a poor job if that's what he was. But, yeah, all the subs really not that good. And in a game when, man, I told you before, we were missing players due to suspension. Second game in a qualifying window. And, man, very hot game. This is similar to what the World Cup is going to be like. And if we bring a poor roster to that too, this is the results we're going to get. So that is something that we just need to talk about. On to the actual play of the team. Individually, I felt like we had mixed results, a couple of very good performances. Tim Weah, definitely very good. He stands out. He scored the goal. And man, that goal was very good. And that's just something that we need to talk about with having amazing technical players. What I always talk about is players who can get on the ball and just quickly play in triangles, play 1-2s, one-touch passes. And it was just a great performance. We saw Chris Richards play ball into Busio, Busio to Weah, Weah 1-2 with Pepi, goal. Like, that's something that we can only do with very high-level players. And the fact that we were able to get a goal like that, man, that's amazing to see. I love to see that. Weah, very solid, scored the goal. He was looking dangerous whenever he got on the ball. He can be very direct. He can drive at people. His crosses weren't as good today as they could have been, but I feel like that's not a huge complaint. And Tim Weah, very solid today. Ricardo Pepe, hesitate to call him a positive, but my rule of strikers is if you're involved in a goal, you did your job. And Pepe, man, he was able to do a 1-2 with Weah, got us a goal, and yeah, that's what you got to do. He wasn't that involved. He wasn't able to get on the ball that much, and when he was, he seemed a little bit leggy. Like, it was almost like he was like on his heels the whole time, like not on his toes. But like, I know he wasn't because that's not the type of player he is. But like, his touch was a little off, and man, you can see the season like kind of wearing on him. They just got done with the MLS season. He's played a couple of games for us. Like, you can kind of feel that. Would have been nice if we had a 9 to bring on, one who was in great form for Orlando. Could win a header if we crossed it in. Man, that would have been great. But, yeah, anyway. Guinness Musa, very good performance again. Yunus Musa able to get the ball and drive, break lines with both his passing and his dribbling. We don't really have a player like that on the team right now. Man, he had another really good performance. I don't feel like he should have been subbed off, but that may have been an energy thing. But Busio was very solid as well. But, man, another really solid performance by Guinness Musa, and he's quickly becoming like one of the go-to guys on this team, another guy to watch. And it's going to be interesting what this team looks like when the full-strength team is back, because, man, I don't want to drop Aaronson, I don't want to drop Musah, I don't want to drop Weah, but you got to get Reina and you got to get Pulisic in. Man, they're giving us a very tough decision, but a very good decision to have. Chris Richards had a very strong game. Not even just for his first game, very good performance by Chris Richards. Defensively solid. I mentioned before he was part of the goal. He was building up the play very well. He's winning head balls. Did everything that you want a defender to do. Very solid performance. The less you can talk about a defender a lot of times, the better they do. And man, really solid performance by Chris Richards. Last really positive guy I want to mention is Gianluca Busio. And man, coming into the game, his first World Cup qualifier, very good performance. I saw a lot of criticism for him. Like, I can get it. He kind of had a bit of a lull, like 20 minutes in the first half, but I thought he was very good. He was able to dribble very well, take on Jamaica players, which we didn't have many people doing. Good job there. He was playing some good passes, directly involved with the goal, and even some good defensive work. Like, I've been mentioning this before, especially in the Gold Cup. Like, in the Gold Cup, what I took away, because you could see it in the Gold Cup, and it definitely got shown now, like, he was struggling because the players he was playing with just weren't at his level. And as I mentioned before, with having technical players able to play those triangles, play those 1-2s, those one-touch passes, like, they kind of left Busio with nothing to do. When you had Leggett in there, when you had Acosta in there, like, there wasn't anything he'd do. And when he was playing with a better team, he was able to show his talent. But in that Gold Cup, one of my big takeaways was the effort that he was showing defensively. And he just showed that again. He was making a lot of good defensive plays, and I really like that out of Busio. He's definitely showed that he can stay on this team, and I honestly wouldn't feel bad about him starting in the future. I don't have him over McKinney, Musah, or Adams yet, but he wasn't a huge downgrade. Man, I'm going to make a comparison, and this is obviously like a poor man's, like, this is his ceiling, but he reminds me a bit of Thiago, like, in that breaking the line, good dribbling, underrated defensively, like, the unassuming type player. Like, I really like Gianluca Busio, and I hope to see him in this team a bit more. Now, on to players who I didn't feel like had the greatest game. Brenden Aaronson, not a bad game, but just not up to his standards. Just a little bit off. Maybe it's like the leggy thing. The pitch wasn't great as well, so like a lot of the touches were a little bit off. That was probably a factor. But yeah, he wasn't really pressing as much. I feel like that was part of the strategy. I'll get into that later. I don't know why we weren't pressing as much, but yeah, he couldn't be as dangerous as he has been in the past. This probably leads to Pulisic starting over him next window, but man, still very good player. I'm very high on him. Tyler Adams, I don't feel like he's been that great this window. A very poor start to the game last time. He got beat by Antonee for the goal, which, I mean, that was just a great goal by Antonee. You can't do much about that. But he wasn't even really helping too much in the build-up. It was typically Busio or Musah going to pick it up. And, yeah, not the greatest performance by Tyler Adams. Then on to the real negatives, and it's the defense. And, yeah, not too much positive to talk about here. Walker Zimmerman. Well, there are positives for Walker Zimmerman. He was solid defensively. If this was 2010, he would have had a good game. But it's not. And whenever he was on the ball, it was a disaster. He just kicked the ball straight to the Jamaica defense at least 5 times. And, man, he just proved that he's not good enough on the ball for this team. He gave the ball away so much where it got to the point where I was kind of just worried whenever the ball went to the right side of the field. Now, sure, Yedlin was a part of that, but yeah, Zimmerman, he really showed that if we want to take this team to the next level, he's probably not a part of it, and a very poor performance by Walker Zimmerman today, and I feel like if John Brooks was here, it would have been a lot better, because we know how good he is on the ball, we know he can be solid, and just not a good performance by Walker Zimmerman. Now, the major weakness in this game, I feel like the reason why we lost why we dropped points were the fullbacks, and Andy Robinson and DeAndre Yedlin offered very little offensively today. Yedlin did a pretty solid job defensively. He did have a couple of mistakes, but I feel like solid enough, but he offered nothing offensively. His crosses weren't finding its mark. He was losing the ball when he tried to dribble, and yeah, just a poor performance offensively. I feel like Joe Scaly could have probably had a better impact. I would have liked this to be a game where you give Joe Scaly some time, just get his feet wet, because that was the excuse for not playing him against Mexico. And yeah, Yedlin, not the greatest performance today. Robinson, very poor, I thought, especially like it's by his standards, I guess. Like, we know how good he can be offensively, but poor performance again today. Just couldn't do anything. Crosses weren't finding the mark. He was just a little bit off in his build-up play, and yeah, poor performance by him, and crossing my fingers for Jonathan Gomez right now, because that's not something you really like. Lastly, Zack, Steffen in goal. I don't feel like he could have done anything about the Antonee goal. Maybe, but I don't think Matt Turner saves that. Wasn't great in his play out the back. We weren't really building it up. We didn't really have the ability to. But yeah, kind of nondescript game for Zack Steffen, not a positive or a negative. But yeah, that's about it for the players. And under Gregg Berhalter and his job, I feel like the starting lineup was good. Again, I would have started Joe Scaly, but and I would have had John Brooks. But given the players that he had, I feel like put us in one of the better positions to win that he could have. But I'm kind of confused tactically because we just did that whole press against Mexico. And Mexico, the best team other than us in CONCACAF, and we abandoned it against Jamaica. When the one time we did it and did it well, like it worked. When we were pressing, it worked. We forced them to give the ball away. But we just abandoned it. And I'm trying to figure out why. Because I can think like, okay, maybe our stamina wasn't there. It's like I mentioned before, very hot environment. We just played a game pretty recently, but Aaronson looked pretty lively. And, well, I'm just going to say it. I mean, why'd you bring Paul Arriola if you didn't want him to be there to press? He shouldn't have started. He shouldn't be in this team. But if you decided to bring him, this is the game where you play him. If Tim Weah was too tired to press and just get at this team, like, what was the point of bringing him? Because it wasn't to come on in the last 15 minutes to do nothing. So yeah, I was confused about why we weren't really pressing. I felt like maybe we could have put the wingbacks, like once it was clear the wingbacks weren't effective, maybe move our wingers a bit more wide, stop playing as more of like inside forwards, maybe play them as more traditional wingers, and try to get runs to the box. But I don't know, that's kind of like an in-game change. I could kind of see you going either way. Those are just some thoughts I had, but not the greatest performance in-game. And yeah, I'm really disappointed in the depth that we had because I feel like Luca De La Torre would have been a big help. I feel like Conrad De La Fuente would have been a big help. And they're just not given a chance. Man, Julian Green, man, he's good on set pieces, and we could use a set piece specialist. But yeah, that's about it. All I have to talk about with the players. I feel like we did get calls today by the referees, which I feel like it's the first time we've actually been getting calls in like a World Cup qualifying. I think against Canada we had a big help from the refs. This game, I don't think Richards was a handball, and I feel like their goal should have stood at the end. That probably should have stood. But yeah, a disappointing game by us. I feel like it could have been better. And yeah, that's all I really have to talk about. Could have been better, but still positives you can take from the game. I feel like we're definitely going to qualify for the World Cup. Knock on wood, so maybe I'm not that sure. But yeah, very good things we can take from it. A lot of things to improve. But overall, solid. We got 4 points this window. I would have taken that before if you would have given me that. So yeah, I'll take it. That's all I'll talk about right now. See ya.